Hey, what's going on, guys? Meteorologist Jonathan Kegas with you on this Wednesday morning as we are already seeing significant impacts when it comes to Tropical Storm Nicole. First and foremost in the Bahamas, where the center is very close by, but also already in Florida. Just saw a report officially that more of the Flagler Beach Pier has collapsed. Of course, that was heavily damaged when Hurricane Ian moved through. Saw some pictures. The waves are overtaking the pier. They are extremely high. We have wave heights being reported just offshore of the east coast of Florida, already north of 30 feet. So this is what we were talking about over the last couple of days when we were doing these videos, that yes, this is just a tropical storm. Yes, this may just be a Category 1 hurricane at landfall, but this is not behaving like either of those because of how large the wind field is. A larger storm, this is just pure physics here, can move more of the ocean, and that's exactly what we are unfortunately seeing. Already seeing moderate flooding at the Trident Pier at Cape Canaveral. Tropical storm force winds already sustained in Miami, and again, the center is going to pass north of Miami with the storm being north loaded. So there is a lot going on when it comes to Nicole. So that is something that we are going to be watching closely over the next several hours. Welcome to the live stream. Again, we are talking all things Nicole. Again, first and foremost, that is a live look at the satellite image as it moves through the Bahamas. We are waiting for the 10 a.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center. There's a Hurricane Hunter aircraft in there right now. I will show you some of the live reconnaissance data in a moment, and then we're going to go over just some of the forecast here, as I think we're really narrowing down where this is going to come ashore a little bit later tonight and early on Thursday morning. So grab a cup of coffee. We are going to get in depth here over the next 30 to 45 minutes as we track Nicole. You see that purple popping up on your screen. Those are hurricane warnings expanded to all of Volusia County, all of Brevard, getting into Martin, getting into towards West Palm Beach and Port St. Lucie as well. Hey, good morning in Georgia. This is coming to Georgia, especially really to the eastern half of Georgia as we get into tomorrow and into tomorrow afternoon especially. I will show you some of that data in a minute. I'll pull that up here. Give me 1 second, and I will show you some of the high-res radar, if you will. And what part of Georgia are you tuning in from, so I can give you some even better, more local information. I'm going to change this over to the... All right, so here we go. All right, into Savannah. So, yes, so we're going to be watching that. Savannah is right at the top of your screen there. And notice here it comes in, and we'll go over slowly here for folks that may be tuning in from Florida. We'll let some other people join. But since we have somebody here from Savannah, you see some of those outer bands kind of pushing through. This is going to be... You're already starting to see some of the effects on the coast in Savannah. Certainly the big waves. We've already had tropical storm force wind gusts reported along the coast in Savannah. As we get into tomorrow, this is going to be at 7 a.m. Some of that heavy rain starts to push through, and some of those outer bands, so that's where your severe weather threat starts to come back into play. So this is at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you see some of those outer bands really pushing on shore as the center of Nicole either rides the Big Bend of Florida or gets out into the Gulf of Mexico and then kind of pushes back through. So then you're going to get another round of potentially some heavy rain in Savannah by Friday afternoon. So I think really this is going to be more central of the state loaded. You're certainly going to get a good push of some very heavy rain, some gusty winds, tropical storm force winds as we get into early tomorrow morning. You're already seeing some of those gusty conditions, especially just right along the coast. Those waves are ugly. They are nasty out there this morning. If you are just tuning in, maybe from the Bahamas, okay, please be safe. That's So that is good to know. The deal that we keep on talking about with this storm is if you are typically impacted by storm surge flooding, that is literally the Atlantic Ocean being pushed into land from the force of the hurricane. This is something that we really need to be paying attention to because the storm is so big. So just keep that in mind. For instance, if anybody's tuning in and around Port Canaveral, and this is just to give you an idea, in Savannah, we've already reached moderate flood stage from tidal flooding at the pier at Port Canaveral, and the storm is 300 miles away. We still have a couple more high tide cycles to go. So the flooding is likely going to get worse. The tide is kind of going back out now, but the flooding is going to get really nasty. So if you typically see storm surge flooding, this is something certainly to be paying close attention to. So hopefully, again, that you are going to stay safe. Please play close attention to this, especially as we get into nightfall tonight. Hey, Ethan, good morning, my man. I will say I think that is unlikely, but it's not going to matter, and I'll show you why. I think this is going to be I think this is going to be more around, I think the HER is doing, we talked yesterday in the video that I thought that the HER, which is what we're looking at now, the high resolution radar, or future radar anyway, the high resolution model, was coming around into Palm Beach. I thought it'd be a little bit further north than that, towards Stewart, towards Vero Beach, into Fort Pierce. And that's exactly where at least this is depicting, somewhere around Fort Pierce or Stewart, maybe up into Vero Beach. Please do. I would love to hear your reports when you can do so safely. Please stay safe out there. You can just post that in the comments here. And I'll continue to check this through the day as well. Mr. LD50, good morning. Yeah, and that's one of the things here, one of the reasons why once we get those heavier downpours pushing through, that they are so intense because you can see the wind right above the surface and the way and how fast the clouds are moving, that it doesn't take much for those wind gusts to be mixed down to the surface, as we call it, because you can even see that with your own eyes as you step outside. So if you are just finding this live stream, welcome. We are, of course, talking about Nicole. Still a tropical storm. We are waiting for the 10 o'clock advisory from the National Hurricane Center. The main thing here is that the wind field in Nicole continues to grow. I don't know how familiar everybody is with Flagler Beach, but there's reports that more of that pier that was already heavily damaged in Ian has collapsed. The waves, I saw a picture of them, have overtaken the pier. They are crashing over the pier. There's reports just outside of Brevard County, off of the Space Coast, of 30-foot waves, buoy reports. So that is concrete information. I want to show you, or I'm going to take you to another kind of thing here and show you kind of a different perspective. Give me 1 second as I switch some things over for you. Yes. Okay, so Ethan, I know which local channel you are watching. That was showing that model. So that's certainly a possibility. That is definitely an outlier. That is definitely an outlier. Don't watch that channel, by the way. Don't watch that one. Just that's my advice. Celeste, hey, good morning. Thank you. We appreciate that in Jamaica. I hope you are doing well. Brother lives in Ormond Beach between the ocean and the Halifax River. So here's what I want to show you. There's just so much to show. So what I have here on the state, and it would help if you can see what I'm looking for. Give me 1 second as I kind of switch this back over here. All right, there we go. This is what I want to show you. So these are the sustained winds. So Ormond Beach, we're going to get real close here. Ponce Inlet, we're gusting, or these are sustained winds to 22 miles an hour. Now gusting to 29 miles an hour. 43-mile-per-hour gust in Daytona Beach. And again, the center of the storm is about 300-ish miles away. Ormond Beach, you can see those wind gusts here. Don't have an official report, but the estimated here, we have sustained winds of 30 miles an hour. Those are the gusts. So you can see how strong these wind gusts are. Every now and then I might stop and just take a look at the Twitter sphere to see any real-time reports, because, again, this is going to be a long-duration kind of event here as we go forward in time, as we move into this afternoon. Just trying to turn some other channels on for you so you can see exactly what I am looking at. I'm going to turn on the wave heights because these are impressive. I know, Ethan, you're in Brevard, and I know we're already seeing some significant storm surge flooding, which, again, is crazy because the storm is way out here. We're going to zoom out. I'm going to show you. The center of the storm is right out in here. And we have, these are sustained winds here. A ship, that's got to be a bumpy ride. I would imagine those are coming into Port Canaveral. I don't know what ship that is. I would imagine, I hope it's not a cruise ship. Could check on that a little bit later, but they are reporting 40-mile-per-hour winds sustained, so sustained tropical storm force winds. They are working their way to Port Canaveral, which is right in here. That is a 36-mile-per-hour gust. I am not sure, unless that's kind of a, maybe it's a Hurricane Center sail drone. I hope so. Because if anybody's on that ship, they are getting a wild ride. But I'll have to check to see that that code there in a little bit. So what I want to do now, for those that are watching it, for any of the new people that are tuning in, we are, of course, already seeing some pretty nasty conditions out there, right along the coast especially. So Ethan is mentioning convection is more important than more impressive, I should say, than last night. Could mean more intensification is possible. It is, and it is expected to intensify a little bit further. Now, I will say this is part of the natural cycle of the hurricane process. We see its most intense thunderstorm activity because the instability is greater. We call it D max. That is the where it's the atmosphere is most destabilized because the air has allowed to cool above the storm, and you still have the warm ocean water that creates the instability where you get where you get some of the more intense thunderstorms. So we'll have to see if they can be maintained. What I'm showing you here, let me move a little closer. Sorry about that. So I can show you. This is still the main thing. And I mean, again, this is going to be a very significant storm. Like, I don't want to sugarcoat it, but I always like to look for at least some positives when we're forecasting this. Note how there aren't any clouds here. And we were talking about this a little bit yesterday, Ethan. That is a ton of dry air here, so the southeast corner of the storm is gone. It's basically missing, and it's wrapping in some of that. Now, you see that little blossom. I love this satellite. I don't love that this is heading towards land. Let me be clear about that. But the GOES 16 high-resolution minute rapid scan here, it just shows so much detail. And you can see the thunderstorms blossoming right around the center. So the one trend that we are going to watch, so when we get into this stage in the game, we are watching trends in how the storm is behaving. So we have several very healthy thunderstorms, as Ian is mentioning, might be trying to form a center right in there. What we're going to watch is if Nicole can wrap those all the way around. The report from the hurricane hunters that are in there right now that the eye is open to the southeast side. And you can see that on satellite. But we have ground confirmation or air confirmation from the hurricane hunters that are in the storm as we speak. So keep that in mind. But it is going to have to fend off this dry air. Hey, good morning to you as well. Thank you for that. And please, you stay safe yourself. I'm just trying to get some other stuff up to show you. But so I had a lot of questions yesterday. Can this become a Category 2 storm? It can. It is on the outside of possibilities, though, which is good. But the storm is so big. And that's what I know a lot of Floridians and a lot of hurricane experts, when I say experts, the ones that have ridden out intense storms before, be like, oh, it's just a tropical storm. Oh, it's just a Category 1 hurricane. I'm not leaving unless this is a Cat 3 or a strong Cat 2 or above or something like that. But I want to be clear, this is not your typical Florida storm. The wind field is so big, it extends, I think, now over 500 miles from the center. I can turn that on. If you give me 1 second, I will turn on the wind field. And this is as documented by the Hurricane Center from what the hurricane hunters are finding. The question, is it still a storm? Yes, it is still a 70-mile-per-hour tropical storm. That brings me, that's a good point. Let me turn on the projected track as we look for this as well. Here is the latest data on Nicole. This is from the 7 o'clock in the morning intermediate advisory from the National Hurricane Center. Momentarily, we should have the 10 a.m. update to see if this is a hurricane or if it's still a tropical storm. Let me get in there and see. Let me pull up some recon data for you. So bear with me a second. I'm going to try to pull that up. All right. So here is, let me refresh the page. This is where the hurricane hunters are now. You see the plane at the top of your screen there where my mouse is? That's where the hurricane hunters are. So this is really cool. This is on tropicaltidbits.com. If you are a weather geek like a lot of us here on this channel, we would love to have you. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. We talk all things weather. It would be nice to not talk about destructive weather for a change, but unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with. Nonetheless, there are where the hurricane hunters are at the top of your screen, and then here is just a look at that wind field. I mean, there you go. At flight level, they have found 64 knot wind, so that's getting close to hurricane force. And Ethan, where we almost we'll see if we get there. I appreciate your support and I appreciate you guys turning in. I really do. Since the start of this a couple of months ago, this channel, we've had a lot of fun talking about the weather. Again, I wish we can kind of look at the meteorology and the science when it's not impacting people, but hopefully this hurricane season comes to it. A very quick end. Hopefully this is the last thing that we have to deal with. Anyway, I keep on getting sidetracked. It's like squirrel. Anyway, now I completely lost my train of thought. Anyway, Ethan, that's what I was going to say. We were talking about landfall and if it can be in Brevard County. There's an outside shot. But here's the deal, and I'm going to show you the wind gust forecast in a second from the high-resolution model. Notice close to the center here. That's where that 987 is. Note those wind barbs that are light blue, light green, 34, 40 knots. So we're putting up 50 miles an hour. All right, hot off the press here. We still have Tropical Storm Nicole. It is still a tropical storm, a very powerful tropical storm. Winds of 70 miles an hour, moving west at 12 miles an hour. So we are getting this data in real time now. The pressure holding steady at 986 millibars. So we've seen no change in the pressure. So I mentioned a lot of times we have to look at the trends. So now when the next aircraft gets in there, now that we've seen thunderstorms really flare up around the center, we will see if, number one, we see the eye start to warm up a little bit. That's an indication we have more subsidence going on, some sinking air within the eye. That's what helps to clear out the eye. And then wrapping those more intense thunderstorms around its center. So we're going to be watching those two things. And then, of course, the next recon flight. So, Ethan, I keep on talking to you. We talk a lot. And notice how the strongest winds are about 40 to 50 miles north of the center. So when I say that this is not your typical Florida tropical system, this is exactly what I'm referring to, is that we're not going to see the strongest winds tightly packed around the eye wall, which puts that into Brevard County. And I'm going to show you, this is the high-resolution forecast now. And again, if you're just joining us, we're going to look at the HER model. I like this a lot, especially when we get into this time frame here. And I think it's doing a very good job having a landfall in and around Stewart, Vero Beach, somewhere in Martin County, almost to where, if you're familiar with Gene, Francis came in 2004. I know 2004 brings a lot of Floridians post-tropical. My goodness. Post-traumatic stress is what I'm trying to say. But notice landfall here, as depicted on the HER, is south of Brevard County. But note where the strongest winds start to come through. In and around Mico, in and around Satellite Beach, Melbourne Beach. That's going to be hurricane force wind gusts. These are in miles per hour, the gusts. So we're at 61 here along the coast. We're looking at about 3 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. Okay, so this is going to be pretty much the height of the storm is early on Thursday morning. But this is what I want to show you. If you live in Brevard County, or if you live in Volusia or Polk or Orange or Seminole or Lake County, is that this is like worst case scenario for the storm if it comes in right smack dab on the center on the hurricane track. Just looking at some buoy information. So again, that's squirrel. So bear with me if I just stop and shift thought process here. But I don't know how well you can see this. Let me see if I can zoom in You might be, and I will too. Again, watch one of the other Central Florida channels, Channel 6. That's where I'll be all night tonight. And probably all morning tomorrow. Anyway, notice here that we could have... So, this is one of my concerns. If you guys like space and have been following some of the Artemis developments, the rocket is still on the launch pad. Okay? We'll see what happens with this. Because NASA says that it can withstand wind gusts of 85 miles an hour. That's what it's designed to do anyway. And I think there's some buffer. Now, clearly, we have wind gusts here pushing 80 miles an hour right around Melbourne Beach, Satellite Beach, getting up into Cocoa Beach. A little bit lower than that right at Cape Canaveral. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I want to see this rocket get off the ground. But we'll see. I know Floridians can't catch a break, and I know you said your brother was in the Bahamas, so we're going to take a look at the Bahamas in just 1 second. But I want to show you even inland. So here we go. This is going to be at 7 a.m. on Thursday. Wind gusts are pushing 70 miles an hour in Orlando. They're at 60 miles an hour in Daytona Beach, up into Ormond Beach, and then moving up into St. Augustine and into Jacksonville. So, and already again, if you're familiar with A1A, in Florida, storm surge has already prompted the closure in Flagler Beach. And we were talking about some of the pier being removed. Ethan, I think in this case, I do think so, because again of where the hurricane hunter, and this is why the recon is so important. I don't know how well you can see that, and let me know if you can see it or not. I'm going to try to zoom my screen in a little bit. Let me see if this, there we go. So notice how the wind barbs go to red to purple. The strongest winds are just to the northwest. It's a little bit lighter. The center is right there, is what the hurricane hunters found. And then, I mean, it's still gusty for sure, but in a typical hurricane, you would see the strongest winds right in here. They are well removed. I want to show you this too. This will bring me to my next kind of thing here as we wait. Okay, we're still waiting on the product that I use to update the latest forecast, because we're going to get a new track at this time too. So the Hurricane Center already put that out, but still waiting for the, oh, there we go. So it just came in as we speak. So still forecasting that to be a 75 mile per hour storm as this kind of rolls through Grand Bahama Island into the Freetown and Freeport area. And again, these are the same areas. He's in Great Abaco, so that's where this is pretty much on top of right now. And I mean, those places again, I hope that they've been able to recover from Dorian, but I just can't even imagine the damage that was done from Dorian, because that thing was a Cat 5 and sat there for pretty much 36 hours. So really, really hope that he's okay. Someone referred to this being north of it as the nasty north. So what I think that person would be referring to it as, I'm not too familiar with that term, nasty north, but in this case, and I'm going to show you why, all of the nasty weather when it comes to Nicole is on the north side. So stick around with me for 1 second, and then I'm going to show you the wind field. But I will show you why it's north loaded, because we have a ton of dry air right down in here. Let me look at, so there you go. So pretty much right on where I just drew that. This is the water vapor imagery showing that dry air. We are rooting for that dry air. This is going to be nasty. We don't want it to get any worse. So we want to keep on hoping that it pulls in that dry air, because then that will choke out some of the fresh thunderstorm development that we are seeing. So it hasn't been able to fend off all of this stuff down towards Nassau and into the more southern Bahamian Islands. The latest forecast track, it still does have, again, for those that aren't too familiar with the cone here refers to where the center could track. Forget about what typically happens here is that the impacts are normally felt outside the cone. We're talking hundreds of miles outside of the cone. But the center could come ashore really anywhere from Sebastian Inlet down to Boca Raton. I would favor it to be somewhere north of West Palm Beach. I think it's going to end up being right in here, which would put like some of the worst weather when it comes ashore anyway, in that upper square that I just drew. So I'll get a little closer. So I think this is really going to come ashore anywhere from Jupiter Island up into Barefoot Bay, which would put some really nasty weather into Melbourne, into Vieira, Satellite Beach, Palm Bay, into Miko, West Melbourne. And then that would transition, once it gets a little further inland, towards St. Cloud, Yeehaw Junction, into Deer Park up here, into Kissimmee, Celebration, Davenport, and then eventually towards the Orlando International Airport, and then back towards I-75. One of the reasons why I keep on saying that this is different, it's a different storm than even Floridians are used to. And I hope, I do think, I know the strongest wind gust, I believe, in Ian, I'm trying to remember on the coast. I know at the Orlando International Airport, it was a 55 mile per hour gust. It was more about the rain with Ian because it also barely had a southeast corner. It pulled in a lot of dry air once it got over Florida. So it kind of choked out the wind speeds. It was, of course, more about the rainfall. We're looking at a widespread 4 to 8 inches with isolated higher amounts right along the coast, which, of course, if you are familiar with the St. Johns River, it's heading back into major flood stage, especially at Astor. It may be able to stay in minor to moderate at Sanford, in DeLand, and in Geneva. So just looking at some of the reports. So I don't know how many people vacation or live. Yeah, hit me up. You can keep on throwing questions away. Love to answer. We're going to be on here until about 10:15 or 10:30. So keep on sending the questions in my direction. I'm just kind of glancing at some things. So I promise this, and this is the calling card of this storm. I don't think so. I think Key West is going to be pretty good. It may be breezy. You might get a few downpours, but Key West way out here, and this is going to come in more like this. And I'll put the official track back on for you. And again, it is a very north and west loaded storm. Ton of dry air down here. So that's going to help to keep the southern side extremely weak, at least in relative sense to where the storm is going. So I'm going to turn off all of the satellite now. This is the wind field. Oh, that's awesome. So I didn't know that. Okay, Ethan says Jim Candori is in Daytona Beach. See ya. Thank you for tuning in. Stay safe. Have a great day there. Just heard that the lifeguard station there collapsed. So again, this is exactly what I hope has been clear in the communication, because I know a lot of Floridians, as I keep on saying, oh, it's just a tropical storm. Look at the wind field. The center is down here, but we have tropical storm force winds already just offshore of Savannah, into Brunswick, Georgia, through Jacksonville, through the I-75 corridor, certainly into the central Bahamas. That's enormous. This wind field is crazy, and that's generating these crazy waves out here, and that's pushing the Atlantic because, again, we have counterclockwise flow around high pressure. Around low pressure, which is what we have in this hurricane sense. So right now, we just have onshore flow pushing the Atlantic in. One thing I haven't mentioned in this live broadcast is, of course, if you saw the blood moon eclipse the other night, we have astronomical high tides, which are already higher than normal because of the full moon that was just out. So you have these king tides, is what they're called, in addition to now this push of the hurricane. I think so. And again, I don't want to make it sound extreme by any means, but this isn't your typical tropical system. And I do think, the point you're making, Ethan, I do think a lot of people are going to be surprised at the damage, especially along the coast when it comes to storm surge flooding. Again, we have A1A right here in Flagler Beach closed already because of water over the highway from being pushed in by the storm. The storm is right here. That's the crazy thing. It's so far away, and we're already getting into moderate flood stage in Port Canaveral. It has now since fallen back into minor as some of the tide tries to go out as we go into low tide. But this is crazy at how expansive this is and just how big this storm is. And again, that is all because of that strong onshore flow right on into the east coast of Florida. Alrighty, guys. I hope that you have found this helpful. If you do, please give it a like. I would appreciate that. It would help more people see this. If you're not already a subscriber to this channel, we would love to have you on board in the weather community. Please hit the subscribe button, and we will keep you posted. I'm going to try to come back on here live in about an hour, around 11:30, 11:45 for a little bit. I'm not sure if that's going to be possible, but I'm going to try. If not, I will keep you posted in the community section of the page with some of the posts as we go forward. But again, the calling card of this system, the personality of this one, and each storm is different, is the ridiculously expansive wind field of tropical storm force winds that are do that. Ethan, stay safe, my brother. Hope you have a good day, and hope you get those supplies and just, ride this out. And I hope you don't get any damage and you hold on power, but we will keep you posted. Thank you all for tuning in. Please stay safe out there. Again, this is one certainly to take seriously, even if it's quote unquote only a tropical storm or a low-end Category 1 hurricane. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate you.